Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of the Boxing Social Podcast with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. Delighted to be joined this week we've taken a little bit of a break away from our usual heavyweight themed guest, and I'm joined by Barry Jones, former WBO super featherweight champion of the world. How are you, Barry?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm good. Yeah. I don't see this is high. I'm low. I thought you were going to give me a cushion to sit on or something like that. I've been watching all these big guys in here, and all of a sudden now you got like the big chair for the little man.
That's okay. Well, you're a big personality and a big name.
That's so I've been told.
So yeah, great to have you here. I think I spoke to you at some point throughout lockdown, but how's your 2020? Let's get that out of the way before we move on to some boxing talk.
Yeah, it's all right. It's been fun. It's like everyone else's. It's been just strange, hasn't it? But listen, you have to just adapt and move on. That's all.
Have you been keeping up with all of the boxing? I'm sure you have been one of the sport's finest analysts.
Well, let's not get carried away, but yeah, of course. I love boxing, my passion, isn't it? So yeah, even though sometimes you've got to remind yourself that when you're working in it day to day, it becomes a chore, and you've got to sort of like pinch yourself and go, listen, this is what you love, so you just remember that. But yeah, so it's been quite good. I'm not working on like some of the shows that have been on TV. I'm not working on them, so I can get to watch them at home, which is quite nice for a change. Yeah.
I haven't watched a fight. We were talking about this briefly before we come into the booth. I haven't watched a fight live since Wilder Fury 2 in February. Wow. It's actually nearly been 12 months since I've been to watch a show in the UK at all. Last show that I went to in the UK was Prograis Taylor, October the 26th last year.
But it's weird. It's like being there. You don't get used to it. You say you sort of we say we sort of get used to it now, but it's a weird atmosphere. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't know why I don't like it, because I have, even when I'm watching at home or watching live, I don't think the crowd ever influences me at all, or anyone else, or commentary don't. But without that noise, it just seems eerie. That's all. So yeah, you go into these. I've been at Wakefield like 7 times or 8 times since lockdown, doing shows for MTK and Channel 5 and stuff, and it's just a big massive like warehouse, pretty much aircraft hangar sort of type thing, and it's just it's weird.
Yeah, it's been very difficult, and obviously, like, tremendous credit to promoters and what have you for being able to even put shows on. We were a sport that's so heavily reliant on the gate and the money that ticket selling revenue brings to fighters, that we're very, very fortunate that we've even really got a sport to come back to. But now we've kind of got through a little bit, well, certainly for the moment, like the first lockdown, pending the second lockdown. We've got a big fight this weekend to look forward to, which is what we've brought you in. Thought about in my head, who's a bigger Lomachenko fan than me? And I stumbled across you. So Lomachenko-Lopez this weekend. Brilliant fight.
It really is. Like, Lomachenko's one of the best fighters who ever lived, and he'll go down like that. I haven't seen a guy. There might be better guys and more successful guys in the history of the sport, but his style is unique to any others, I feel. And he's been the Matrix. I know, but he's been a puzzle that people just could never solve. And he's only up at lightweight for challenges. He's a featherweight boxer at lightweight. He's not even a super featherweight. He's moved up because where else is he going to go? He's looking for a bigger fight. So even with that danger of boxing these bigger guys, he still relatively plays with these guys every time. But in Lopez, he has a young, hungry fighter. Listen, everyone's going to say the same thing. Young, hungry fighter who's ambitious, has fast hands, fast feet. A lot of things that you need, and actually bigger, of course. That's the important part, that you would need to maybe cause Lomachenko trouble.
And one of the things that I want to talk about, you've made a good point there about like the natural size advantage. A lot's been made off, and obviously we'll talk about this as we kind of develop. We're going to be hearing from Lomachenko and Lopez and various other bits throughout, but the delay in this fight, now a lot of people are kind of pointing to potentially Lomachenko's age and kind of that period of time out of the ring, but we've also seen Teofimo Lopez be very tight at the weight at 135 pounds for a long time. Still a young man, his body is still growing, he's naturally still expanding. Do you think that could be a factor in this fight?
It can work for and against you, because the weigh-ins are 24 hours before now, so it's not always that you can make the weight, it's how you make the weight. So like, I was a naturally small guy, and boxing at really 2 weights above my natural boxing weight. Not my natural weight, my natural boxing weight. So I would just walk into the weigh-in with a Mars bar in my mouth and wind people up. But sometimes if I just cut, I knew I could make the weight easy, like Lomachenko knows he can, relatively easy, then you would leave it to the last minute, and all of a sudden then it wouldn't be a struggle compared to other, the Calzaghe used to have to struggle, but it would be more of a struggle than it should have been. and then you have to not eat for a couple of days or something like that, where usually it would just walk into it fine. So it's how you do the weight. And same for these guys who struggle for weight. If you start early enough, now you have a long enough time to get to a decent weight, to train hard, and then gradually lose the weight. If you gradually lose it, sensibly and discipline yourself, then people say they made the weight easy. It's never easy for them, but it's the easier way. And so if he's made the weight right, then 24 hours before then he weighs in, or 36 hours probably by the time fight time comes, then he's naturally bigger and stronger, and that has an advantage. But if he's made the weight wrong, then he's you eat too much, and then he'll be stodgy and lethargic, and you'll see that sometimes when they say I just couldn't kick off because something was missing. It's because you've made the weight wrong, and then you've put too much fuel in your body, and it's almost like flooding your car with petrol, pretty much. You can't really kickstart it.
Yeah, and particularly when you're facing somebody like Lomachenko, so fleet of foot, so nimble, angles and working around the corner, not being able to get off or feeling kind of slow and heavy, it's probably the last thing you want going into that fight.
It is, because you need to have the tank full. Like literally, you need to be like at your best. Because what he does, like I used to say East Europeans, but every Soviet, because obviously Kazakhstan is not in Europe, but the Kazakhstans and the Ukrainians, because I was going to Golovkin, similar to Lomachenko, different style, but similar in they use that front foot to put you under pressure. They do it in different ways, but they stick that front foot right in between your stance. So even when they're not doing anything, you feel like you're under pressure all the time. And what that does then is, like, to throw punches, you want to be smooth, and everyone thinks you got to tense up, but actually you want to be smooth. So it's just body mechanics. You turn from the waist, you turn from the hips, and you throw the shots nice and easy, and that's where the power comes from, and that's when you can rattle off faster combinations, and the accuracy is better, everything's better. But when you got someone putting pressure on you with the feet, you're tense, because you're thinking about him, not what you're going to do. You think, I'm going to punch him, and now you're thinking, and you punch not when you want to, when you have to, the necessity, and sometimes then you end up snatching at your punches, and you're tense, and everything's hard, and you're pulling against yourself, and it tires you out, drains your energy, and also you're constantly thinking as well. That's the worst thing. So we say Lomachenko thinks all the time. He sort of does, but he does all his thinking in the gym. And so then when he gets to the ring time, it becomes muscle memory, and almost like it's almost like things he's done all the time, so you can just go through the motions. But so subconsciously his body tells him, do this, do this, do this, do that. If you have to really study, then you're knackered. The mental thing is almost as worse than the physical. So, and that's what he'll do to you. He'll make you, with that front foot, he'll move you around the ring, and he'll always put pressure on you, even when he's not doing anything. And it's clever, but it's something that those ex-Soviet countries, they sort of have done from day dot.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to hear later on from Shane McGuigan, who I caught up with recently, obviously prepared Luke Campbell to box Vasyl Lomachenko, and he said that, Luke Campbell, again, decorated amateur, Olympic gold medalist, like certainly coming into his prime now as a pro as well.
Great footwork.
Yeah, excellent, great control of distance. And he said that what Luke usually is able to do to other fighters, which is sort of move them around the ring and touch and look for the openings and just keep that mental pressure on them, Lomachenko was able to do to him, which obviously Luke Campbell's not really wary of. Just what's it like when you boxed, we always seem to go back to an Acelino Freitas fight, unfortunately, because it's a similar mould of that, forward pressure fighter, just waiting for you to panic and make a mistake.
First of all, go back to that fight, because that was really the only world-class fight that I boxed and came up short, so that's fine. And yeah, it's just that presence that better fighters have than you. Like, I had it over probably people below my level at a different level, but when you get the world level, that presence that these genuine world-class fighters have, it's a weird thing, because you can't really put your finger why. Well, why can't I just get in the centre of the ring? You please take the centre of the ring. Sounds easy. Well, I'll just run. So when the bell goes, I'll just run to the centre of the ring first, and I've got centre of the ring. It doesn't work like that. It's a weird thing. It's a presence they have. It's an intimidation. Even if not massive punches, like Lomachenko's not a massive puncher, but I think he has, and he's not a big guy, but I think he has an intimidating persona about him when he's in the ring. Not outside the ring, because he's tiny, but inside the ring, he seems to have that. All of a sudden, somehow, without actually growing, he seems to be a bigger.
It's a presence.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But again, it's that comfortableness with it, and how they just it's all to do with that front foot. They engineer everything with that front foot. They put it on you, and it's in and out. Like with someone like a Golovkin will just ram it right in the centre of your stance and make you feel, because and he'll hit you anywhere early to feel his power. Lomachenko doesn't have that power, so that foot goes in and out. It darts in and out, and it cuts your movement off, and you feel like you're being edged into a corner. And then when you come onto him, he skips back 2 steps and he takes a pivot. Or he takes that, or he's one of those fighters who's lucky enough can take that pivot close to the body and can be around the back of you. And it's very difficult to do. And he can do it either side as well. Usually you can, if you're an orthodox fighter, usually you can only pivot to your left. You go to your right, you're walking onto a left hand or a left hook, and he can do it either side. Or right hand, I should say, sorry. He can do it so effortlessly, more easy than I can say the word, actually. But I don't know why I'm trying to say that word. I always never get it right. But yeah, and you're just like, where is he? And you panic and you can't find him, and then he pops you with shots, and they're not heavy-handed shots, but then after you feel it. I think he has enough pop in his punches to make you feel the pain, but not without really knocking you out. He's not like a Naz. Naz was another guy who had tremendous footwork in a different way, of course, to Lomachenko. Not better than Lomachenko's, but he would make you miss and then hit you so hard that you would literally, a little bit of poo would come out. But you would panic, because you'd know, if I make a mistake now, I'm going to pay, and pay big. And Lomachenko does that, but he does it with accumulation of punches rather than the one powerful shot.
Yeah, it's sort of like death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it, with Lomachenko?
Yeah,
And Luke Campbell, when speaking to Luke Campbell about him, he said it wasn't necessarily the punching power, it was the right shot at the right time, finding the right openings, and just catching you repeatedly. And as I say, that death by 1,000 cuts. But before we hear from Teofimo Lopez, we're going to have coming up next, interview that I did with him recently, let's talk about his last fight. Feels like a long time ago now, that fight against Richard Commey. A lot of people were billing that as not necessarily 50-50, but certainly a big step up for Lopez based on the fighters that he'd fought before them. We've seen Richard Commey give great accounts of himself against some good fighters, Ray Beltran, etc. What did you make of his performance against Richard Commey?
I thought it was fantastic, because Commey, massively underrated, and also he has that shoulder roll, Lopez, and with that shoulder roll, as we've seen with the great Floyd Mayweather, who seems to have been the one we all associate with it, is tall fighters, it's hard to make it work against a taller fighter with a longer reach, because when you turn your body, especially you sit on the back foot and you use that shoulder to block your chin, well, the punches can theoretically come over. So that's why Mayweather would stick that elbow out. He'd make it harder for you to get over it. So you come over it, then it's easier to come over. So with taller fighters, that doesn't work. But Lopez has such great balance. And what Lopez can do really good is when you think you're in a safe space, he jumps in, he leaps into, he has really fast feet, explosiveness with the feet. So he jumps into target really quickly, and he's on you. And he has that power, of course. The shot on the middle that finished it was fantastic. It really was. And it was when you're throwing. And that's something that we'll talk about later with Lopez and Lomachenko. Throwing when you're throwing is going to be quite an important thing for Lopez. Throwing when Lomachenko's throwing. I think that's maybe a way in.
Yeah, and you make an interesting point about kind of the way he covers ground with his feet. I mean, the Magdaleno knockout, that kind of leaping in left hook from Lopez. It's a really dangerous shot, but is he going to be able to kind of set Lomachenko up for those types of shots? And if he is, how regularly is he going to be able to do that? Because, I mean, again, something that we're going to come on to is kind of what Shane McGuigan and Luke Campbell said about once you hit him with a shot and he acknowledges it, you spend the rest of the fight looking for the same shot and you just never get it back.
I think it's almost like you look how to beat Lomachenko and you think, natural size, so the bigger you are, the better it is, and all the rest of it. But I think you've got to aim for his chest. Anyone with great movement, you've got to stop their movement. So you aim for you don't aim for the head, and you've got to aim for their chest. You've got to stop that movement. So it's the shoulders and the body, and work your way up like that. He does it to you. He throws, when he comes forward in a straight line sometimes, he throws straight punches, but it goes head, chest, body, head, body, chest, and he varies it all the time, but he usually comes in the spurts of 3 or 4, but they're never 3 headshots, they're never 3, sometimes they are, but he mixes it up all the time, so you're never sure. You can't really, even though he has great rhythm, you can't really read his rhythm, because he always changes, as everyone would already told you this. But and I think with someone like Lopez, he has to just throw. I think that's important back. So you think you've got to be bigger and stronger, but I think you've got to whack him in the chest. If you can hit him just to stop his feet. Because if you hit him off balance, you go for the head, he can slip and slide, and if he takes a shot, he's still on a pivot, he's still on a movement. If you whack that chest really hard, it hits him off balance or it stops him from moving, and then you got to work. So I think it takes a blind faith to beat Lomachenko. I think you have to commit yourself when you're not quite sure. And I don't think single shots will work. Listen, Lopez can throw a lovely left hook and catch Lomachenko coming in and knock him out. I think that can happen. And Lomachenko can now and again switch off, and he's been caught and put down before. But at the most part, they're few and far between it. And even if you do, it's never really a crunching shot. It's not one shot that even that shot with Linares was a good shot. But it was never really a shot you thought Lomachenko was in trouble. It was more like a case that he's hit him a little bit squared-footed. Very rarely, just one of those real switching off moments, which everyone has. So yeah, but the fact that Lopez is bigger and the fact that he can jump into target, I think when Lomachenko takes a step back, don't jump on him, just nick a little space. So if you can get him go back in straight lines, which is almost impossible, but it's mad. I'm sort of thinking this is what you should do, and I'm thinking, but I just know Lomachenko will do this. So he has an answer for everything. And you think physical size, but I think you just got to commit yourself and you got to make him work. That's why I always think that maybe a Tank Davis, a shorter, stronger fighter who will just throw lots of shots, that might be the way to beat him. My worry with Lopez is that he likes to box at his own pace, which is great. And he can ignite the switch and he can go through the gears really well. But he creeps up on you. He sits on that back foot. He creeps up on you, and he intimidates you. And he takes the centre of the ring. He does all the right things that you want from a young good fighter. But I don't know if Lomachenko will let him do that. If you got a little Lomachenko darting round him and he has to up tempo, if he can do that, then I think he has a chance. But if he can't, then he's going to be in that centre of the ring with Lomachenko buzzing round him and not being able to find him.
It's kind of the situation you mentioned there. Lopez likes to get your respect early, land a big shot, put you in your shell, and then dictate the pace and the tempo of the fight. It's difficult to see him being able to do that to Lomachenko.
It is, but and I think without that, without that blind commitment, just doing it, I think you have to gamble. I think the only way to beat Lomachenko is the gamble. Because you see all these clever fighters like Linares and Campbell and even people like not Martinez as such, but they try and do what you should do, the correct things to do, because that's what you're taught. And of course you should. You don't take silly chances, don't take silly risks, because it'll expose it. But I think the orthodox of your work suits him. Anything in straight lines is easy for him. I think you have to be like Salido, and that'll never happen again, because that was his first.
It's almost like two different fighters.
He learned from that. Yeah. He learned so much. That was the best thing that could have happened to him. Actually, he got and it was a close fight, by the way. People think he got bat. He never, but he got roughed up and stuff like that. But I think the unorthodoxness of Salido unsettled him a little bit. I think that might work, but you just don't see that with Lopez. Has that? That's the worry. Teofimo is so well structured, so well schooled. But I think he just got to. I think if he can start fast and try and put pressure on Lomachenko. As I say it, I don't believe it though. Because I
know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, how would you train that fighter? That's what I think. How would you train? I'm not a trainer, but how would I train him? I know you don't want to change who you are, because what you does works so well. And that leaping in might work when he takes a little. Because Lomachenko takes 2 little steps back before he pivots. I know you can pivot really quick, but most of the time he'll throw shot, and then when you go at him, he takes two little steps. They're not massive steps, 2 little steps. So do you leap in? Do you take a step and then he thinks you're coming at, then you leap in? I think you got once he's throwing, you just got to. I think you got to put your chin down and you got to throw with him, and hope that his momentum walks onto one of your shots.
Okay, well, I'm going to catch up with the man who will be looking to do that, or I've already caught up with the man who will be looking to do that this weekend, Teofimo Lopez, the IBF lightweight champion of the world. Here's what he had to say about tackling Vasyl Lomachenko this weekend. Okay, and before we hear from Teofimo Lopez ahead of his bout with Vasyl Lomachenko this weekend, let's have a look at some of the odds offered by our partners Betfred ahead of the fight. If you fancy Teofimo Lopez to spring the upset by knockout, TKO or technical decision, you can get 5-1 on Betfred. Lopez has 12 stoppage wins in his 15 fights as a professional, including a second-round TKO of Richard Comey in his last fight. Now, if you fancy Teofimo Lopez to produce that same sort of performance, you can get 33-1 on a stoppage win for Teofimo Lopez between rounds 1 and 3. Vasyl Lomachenko, who we saw knocked down before coming back to win by 10th round TKO against Jorge Linares. If you fancy him to be knocked down in the fight, yet still beat Teofimo Lopez, you can get 6-1. So that's Lomachenko to be knocked down, get up and win by decision, or TKO at 6-1. If you fancy Lomachenko to repeat his trick of winning late in the fight in the championship rounds, anytime between rounds 10 and 12, you can get 9-1 on Vasyl Lomachenko to stop Teofimo Lopez. If, like many people are picking, you fancy Vasyl Lomachenko to win by a decision, you can get 20-21, so just shy of even money. That's worth pointing out that 2 of his last 3 fights for Lomachenko have been 12-round unanimous decision wins. He's 4-1 over the 12-round distance and hasn't lost a 12-round fight since his second bout against Orlando Salido in 2014. Now, if you fancy Teofimo Lopez to win by unanimous decision, or any sort of decision for that matter, bear in mind he's only had 1 fight that's gone the full 12-round distance against Nakatani in July of 2019. But if you fancy him to beat Vasyl Lomachenko over 12 rounds, you can get 15-2 at Betfred. So those are our hot picks for this weekend's bout between Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. Remember to please gamble responsibly and visit betfred.com for all of the latest odds. This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined once again by the IBF lightweight champion of the world, Teofimo Lopez, the Teofimo Express, back on Boxing Social. How you doing, Teo?
I'm doing great, man. Like a champ. Feeling like a champ, and I can't wait. October 17th. Big things.
Now, I haven't seen you since February. I think it's fair to say that you're looking in slightly better shape now than you were in February. How's camp been going so far, sir?
Camp has been tremendous, man. I'm definitely excited. You know, it's been a long time coming. You know, we haven't, since my last fight, December. So just to be in camp now, you know, it feels good. It feels great. My body is definitely talking back to me for sure. But I'm looking forward to October 17th.
Now, before we come on to talk about Vasyl Lomachenko, let's talk about your own training team and your own training camp. Somebody who you've worked with in the past, who's obviously been reintroduced to this camp, Mr. Joey Gamache. Talk to us a little bit about what he brings to your camp.
Joey Gamache, man, he brings definitely for a fact, as he's my assistant coach. He definitely brings more to the table for you know, just as in understanding with us. You know what I mean? We work on many things. Obviously, he's worked with Loma his beginning of his career. I believe his first 2 fights as a pro. So Joey Gamache definitely knows the ins and outs a little bit of what Loma likes to do, what he chooses to use at certain period of times and things like that. So it's good. You know, overall, we're a great team. You know, he works well with my father, which I'm very surprised. You know, my father is he's not a hard guy to work with. It's just sometimes people don't get him. You know, they don't understand the way he thinks logically. But you know, what I was surprised about is just how well they've worked together. You know, and the fact that they get along. You know, which is a great, huge asset of mine. And that's that's why, you know, with the Richard Comey fight, we worked so well. We did so good. Training camp went tremendous. That's why he came back this camp, you know, and the same thing, if not better, you know. So that's why I'm very happy about, you know, and I just feel a lot more structured.
Now, you mentioned your father, obviously your trainer, not short of a word or two. I think it's fair to say he's certainly not camera shy, not scared of putting his opinion out there. Seems to have got under the skin of Vasyl Lomachenko. Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me if he did get under his skin or not. You know, that's between him and however he feels with us. You know, the whole thing is not trying to get into the man's mind per se. It's honestly just how we feel. You know, at least for me. You know, however my father wants to put it or how he feels, that's on him. You know, but for me, I just I'm there to go out there and win, do my job. But at the same time, if I don't like you, then it just makes it that sweeter for that victory.
Do you like Lomachenko?
No, I don't. I just don't. I don't see it, man. I just can't connect eye to eye with him. Just one of those guys, man. You know, and it's just one of those guys that you just can't see eye to eye with. And it's nothing. It's not like because he's not the only one. There's been fighters where I've like walked around. I kind of don't like how you hold yourself. So, it's not towards just straight to him. It's just how I am. That's just who I am. If I don't like you, I'm just gonna tell you I don't like you. And if you got a problem with it, then we could solve it. We could find a way, whether it's outside or inside the ring. Either way, I'm gonna, if you got a problem, then I'm gonna step up to the plate.
So you dislike him as a person, respect him as a fighter?
I wouldn't say respect him as a fighter. I respect the fact that he's trying to do bigger things in the sport. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I could take my hat off to him about, is that, I don't respect him as a fighter. But what I can say is that I could take off my hat to the fact that he wants to continue to do bigger things in the sport that he loves, and I have the passion that I love for it as well. And that's why he's where he's at, and that's why I'm where I'm going to be, after this fight. Honestly, with everything that's going on, I just see, since him going to 135, it is not his natural weight. He's better off at 130, 126, and these are just facts. I understand the fighters that he's faced and everything at 135. Tremendous fighters, don't get me wrong. You got Linares, Luke Campbell. I wouldn't say Crolla. Crolla, you just disappointed. You were just a disappointment. Sorry, lad. But who else did he fight?
Pedraza.
Pedraza, there you go. So Pedraza as well. Tremendous fighters, you know what I mean? But he never faced someone like me. Actually, a true, not only just a natural 135-pounder, a bigger 135-pounder, really, but just hungrier, stronger, younger, faster, smarter. I don't respect them, so that just leads everything into one. So these fighters, they had too much respect. I understand, don't get me wrong. The guy has done what he has done, but I believe I'm better. And the only way I can prove that is come October 17th with my hand raised.
Do you have to win this fight by knockout, or can you win it by decision?
No. Honestly, the thing is, like, I'm just the type of fighter, if I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to continue to hurt you, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to withstand 12 rounds of that. When I'm mentally there, I'm physically already in everything. When I'm physically there, mentally there, can't nobody stop me but me. A lot of people use the whole fight with the Nakatani. Nakatani, I wasn't mentally there. I'm looking around the whole fight and everything like that, around who's there, my wife and so on and so forth. Just things were going on in my personal life. But moving forward, things have been different. So I look forward to big things coming after this, and I don't need to win the fight by knockout. Look, but if it comes, I'm definitely going to take it.
So that was the IBF lightweight champion of the world, Teofimo Lopez. Confident young man, Barry.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he be? He's looked fantastic. He really has. Someone put a tweet out the other day about this fight, about the WBC, and it'd be the franchise belt or whatever. And the kid, I don't know who the guy is, but he said, "I don't care about that. It's number one and number two fighting each other." And that's exactly what it is. Lomachenko's clearly number one, but I think Lopez is clearly number two. So I think it's the fight that we want. So I think it'll be a good fight, whatever happens. But and he'll come in with full of confidence. And when you're undefeated, especially the way he's conducted his career, the way he's had his wins, why wouldn't he? Must feel unbeatable. He must feel it's his time, because age and size can be a factor. You think Lomachenko doesn't look like he's slowing down, but you have to one day. And it usually shows in the ring, not in the gym. Usually shows on the fight night. You'll see all these fighters in the past will tell you that one night they just turned up and it wasn't there. And whether they got over the line and retired like Joe Calzaghe did, or whether they got beat up and then retired like a Kevin Mitchell did, they just know it's not here tonight. I can't see that, but I think those things they are the intangibles that might come into play. But yeah, he's done nothing wrong. But also, when you've had it all your own way and quite comfortable for him, let's be honest, will the wheels come off? Will he panic when he's throwing those shots out, that there's things that always work for him and they don't work? Or what if he catches Lomachenko and Lomachenko doesn't move? Or he catches him and he gets caught back and hurt himself. And then you start thinking, what does he do there? He hasn't been in that scenario. He might have been in training, and you can only try and replicate that if you can. But from my knowledge, I haven't seen that in an actual fight where he's been under real severe pressure. So
not really. He had the Nakatani fight where he wasn't at his best, but he said preparations weren't great. I know there was some personal issues going on outside the ring around that time, but that's not the same.
And also, he had the guy there who just hit with a brick with a sledgehammer, and he wasn't going anywhere. But again, it wasn't. It was just, and that was an uninspiring fight for him. That's the truth of it, to be honest. It was just a mark time fight in his mind. He thought he'd walk in there and blast him out there. That's all that. But and that would have probably helped him for this fight. But I don't see that the way he's had real adversity yet, and how he copes with that. If it happens, listen, he can go out there and he could be better than what we all thought. You people rise to the occasion, and he might do that. But either way, if he gets beat, we're all sort of putting a stamp that he's going to get beat. Let's be honest. But it's how he conducts himself. I think he's losing to just a genius, once in a generation type fighter. So his confidence shouldn't be dented too much. He'll come back just as good a fighter, if not better, from it. Might pick up a few tips on the way, to be honest. Or he gets just one of the best wins in boxing in recent years and goes on to be an all-time great of his own. That's to be honest. All of a sudden then, he beats Lomachenko, his earnings are through the roof. He's getting up to super lightweights, with Josh Taylor, and all these fights are relatively easy to make, and it becomes a bit of a superstar overnight.
Yeah, he does, and I think you make a good point about his confidence going into this fight. I think it's indicative of that, the fact that he's won the title against Richard Commey, and he wants to go straight into the big undisputed fight. I mean, we mentioned the WBC situation and the title with Devin Haney. Yeah. I agree. I think it was Luke Williams who put out that tweet right off Boxing Social. Shout out Luke Williams. And it is true. It's the number one versus the number two. But he's not come away from that Richard Commey win and gone, okay, I'll get one defence out of the way, and then we'll build the fight, which is what we hear all the time now about marinating this and that and the other. And he's gone straight in there against Vasyl Lomachenko. But you do make the point of, on the flip side, this is not Richard Commey. This is not Magdaleno. This is a completely different kettle of fish.
It is. But when you're training for a fight, like even when you have no chance of winning, but you cling to the positives. So they'll be thinking, he's not the youngest. You haven't had a real hard pro career, but you had a long career, amateur and pro. He's been around forever. How long can you keep wanting to do this sport? It's as much as you love it. You must get to a stage of your career where you are looking for the end game. Where you're going to finish. Obviously you got goals and aspirations. You want to leave a legacy, the new word, a legacy. You want to leave a lasting memory of people of your ability. So Lomachenko, we think he's great, but he probably wants to win a few more things along the way. But how long can you keep going before you just think, it's one more fight, because it's more money, and if money's your total motivation, you'll get found out at the end of the day. It has to be for the passion, I think, and so I think you cling to that, the natural size. The fact that he has been beat before, you cling to all these things. So you think of, can I rough him up? Could we haven't? Maybe Teofimo Lopez can get inside and rough him up. Maybe when they are in close, if they get close, he needs to try and hold him. Well, if they do get close and they cling, Lomachenko can get inside really quick. He can get those elbows inside and he'll tuck it, or he'll keep moving his feet and he'll get it and he'll escape. So you got to try and hold him, pull him. I would be as dirty as I could, to be honest. Remember saying about Naseem Hamed, I thought, if I ever box Naseem Hamed, I'd headbutt him in the first 10 seconds if you can get close to him. And I think that's really unsettling. I think, even though it won't be the same as the Salido fight, I think, but if you can get close and you can do something to get on his, to unsettle him.
Straight away, forearm in the face.
Yeah, mentally upset. The physical gifts he got, you're just not going to change. But try and change his mindset. Maybe he goes for you a little bit more than he would have, or he panics and he starts being a little bit more cautious with his work, whatever it is. You got power. You want a guy make it feel it early, but how do you make a guy feel your power? You can't hit. Maybe you've got to step on his toe and you've got to headbutt him, and you've got to hit him between the legs, so you've got to kick him in the leg. I don't know what you do. You have to do. Salido did everything. Well, I've pretty much everything that I just mentioned. He hit him. Hit him
low. Probably twice around.
Well, he hit him so low. Some of them weren't even dangerous. They were so low. You know what I mean? They were on his ankles. But I think you just do whatever you have to do. And he realised, I've got a guy who's much better than me, but I need to unsettle him, and it worked. Lomachenko would have learned from that. And he learned how to fight inside, when people hold on, how you have to use your body in your strength. Sometimes you push. And sometimes you don't push, and sometimes you pull, sometimes you don't pull. Sometimes you got to go with a fighter, then pull back. Sometimes you got to push a fighter back, and then you pull back to release. And so there's different things you learn as you go along. He's had a steep learning curve as a professional, obviously Lomachenko. But the 15 fight season, you tend to think Lomachenko's the guy with all the experience as a pro. No, forget about the amateurs, just as a pro.
I think what 13 world championship fights, 14 world championship fights. So
it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's just if someone would have told you this like 15 years ago, you just would have gone, shut up. No one's going to do that. It's ridiculous. They get battered. If they had 13 fights in their 13 world title fights in their 15 fights, then they've lost 6 of them. Even if they're great, they've lost 6 of them. That's what you would tend to say. He sort of ripped up the rule book. To be honest, he's been phenomenal. But you understand why Lopez is full of confidence, and I think that confidence will help him. He has to go in there. Or last you want to think is go, I'm up against this genius. What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah, and that kind of leads me on to what Lopez was saying in the interview, that, first and foremost, you're talking about the unsettling, the trash talk that's come out of Lopez's camp, obviously from Lopez Sr. As well as Lopez Jr. That appears to have got under Lomachenko's skin. He's, these Eastern Bloc fighters or these former Soviet fighters are very stoic. They're very much, about respect. And when stuff like that happens, they don't really take too well to it. And this is the first time I think we've really seen Lomachenko appear at least a little bit, maybe not rattled, but pissed off with some of the things that have come out from Lopez's camp. That's obviously to unsettle him, but do you think that also potentially puts a little bit of undue pressure on Lopez? All of this stuff, we don't respect him. If we don't knock him out in 6 rounds, I'm going to retire from boxing. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Is that too much pressure on Lopez?
No, I don't think it is. I think if Lomachenko was saying that, it'd be pressure on him to really perform. But I don't think it is, because if he don't do it, no one's expecting him to do it. All the things he's saying, no one's really expecting him to do all these things, let's be honest. No, some people expect him to win, and some people are saying it's a 50-50 fight, and he has a chance, of course, but no one's expecting him to go out there and dominate, or retire if he doesn't win. That's just ridiculous. So I think he's just saying these things to try and unsettle Lomachenko. I don't think it works, because we're only seeing this because the fight's had such a long build-up now, because of what's the lockdowns and whatever else, the breaks with this COVID stuff, that we're seeing more of Lomachenko, more interviews with him. So he just thinks he has to say something else, and we'll see what he says when he gets in the ring and all this stuff. I don't think it unsettles him. He's not like Usyk, but he's that sort of character where he just thinks, carry on. Yeah, carry
we'll
on.
See.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, good luck to you, mate. Yeah, carry on. Yeah, you can knock me out. Okay, yeah. Well, see you in a couple of weeks. And that's it. And I think, and also he's learning now. Because he's based in the States, he's learning more that he has to say certain things just try and build up a fight. But he's just saying it and then walking. He seems the sort of fighter who will sit in a press conference, do whatever he has to do, and then go home and his missus go, how'd you go today? Yeah, it was all right, love. What's for dinner? Not fester on it. Like I would go home and go, I can't believe he just said that about me. Right, let's go down to the gym. But I don't think nothing phases him. And that's why he's so good, because nothing phases him in or out of the ring.
You mentioned that presence and kind of people, and it's how important it is for Lopez not to go in there and go, I'm boxing Lomachenko, he's great, he's double Olympic gold medalist, da, 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 da. But also, what we've heard from Lopez in that interview is that, he doesn't respect Lomachenko in the ring. He has no respect for him in the ring. Everybody who's gone in there has gone, this is the great Lomachenko, and shown him too much respect. Now, obviously, there has to be an element of that where you can't be overly respectful, but surely he has to show him a level of respect in the ring because of the level of opposition.
Well, of course he does, and of course he is. He's going to be in there. He's going to be, however he looks on the outside and the inside, he's going to be like nervous as you can be, because this is the biggest fight of his life, and understandably so. And that'll help him. Those nerves give you the edge. If you don't have him, then I don't see how you can be a great fighter. But I also think he has to, put it on him in many ways. I think, like we spoke of this already, about, I think, he has to try and make him feel the power early if he can. And he has to try and make that physical presence and strength show if he can. And for me, I still think that if he can throw when Lomachenko's throwing, if he can throw and land when Lomachenko's throwing himself, then that can you possibly do it? Can you stop the rhythm of Lomachenko? That's the thing. If you stop the rhythm of Lomachenko, what does he do? Yes, what does he do? That's never happened to him. I don't think that's ever happened to him, really. The Salido fight was the one, but again, he's a different fighter now. If you can stop the rhythm of him, then is he any good, Lomachenko? Then after that, no, obviously he's good, but I mean, is he the great fighter that he is? If you take it with that rhythm, all of a sudden every time you hit it, he hits. Then he's worried about throwing shots. Then he just becomes defensive. No, and it's okay making people miss, but you keep making people miss. They just step on you. If you're not giving them something to answer back, look at Harold Graham, genius at making people miss, and could bang a bit, to be fair. But at the highest level, the reason he never got over the line, he had great fighters, to be fair, not like it is today or my day, but he had great fighters up against, but was because he didn't have the Nazim Hamid pop in his shot. So he made you miss, and danced around, but they just closed the gap in the end and just threw. And so if you can throw when Lomachenko's throwing and hurt him, and hit him on the chest, stop that rhythm all of a sudden, and then step on him, and he's just being more defensive than he is he's not moving to do something else, he's just moving to survive and make you miss, rather than make you miss and then give you another problem to worry about, which is what he does quite well. Then you've got him. Then you're on him. Then he's just there's no thought after, or his only thought is making you miss. Not making you miss and then moving to hit you back. That's what he always does. He makes you miss, but he's thinking about, once I moved, I'm going to make you miss. I'll slip that shot, but this is coming next. And it might be another movement, but it ends with him throwing a shot and putting you under pressure. He takes it around, he takes your pressure and puts it back on you. But if you can hurt him or stop his rhythm, I keep saying the same thing, but then all of a sudden then, he's moving just to move. Then your thought process is ahead of his. Easily said, easily done. It's not easily done. It's impossible. I'm here now. Just thinking. I haven't thought this out. To be honest, I'm just thinking off the cuff. How would you stop him from being so good? But it takes a tremendous athlete, which Lopez might be, to do that. I don't know. But also, I just think with Lopez's shoulder roll, the way and turning to your right and sitting on a back foot. It's not great for against a southpaw, to be honest. Especially a southpaw who can move on the target and hit you square on, and that worries me. And also, because you've learned to do that, and it's been so effective for you, that's a habit. And a good habit for most of his career, and all his career. It's a habit and your own rhythm. You do that subconsciously. That's all. Can you change that on fight night? It's like telling Kyle Frost to keep your hands up when you get caught with a big right hand. No, he never done it, because he didn't have to do it, because he had a great chin. But he get caught. No, when George Groves dropped him, you think he would keep his hands up. He still didn't. Because if you don't do that in the gym every day, then when you're under tremendous pressure and you're tired, it's the last thing you're going to do. It really is. So, and the same with Lopez in that shoulder roll. Once that don't work for him, he's still going to do it. And so that's why I worry. When you see Lomachenko, his hands are always up. Even when he's one of those few fighters who can keep that beautiful, smooth movements, the rocking back and forth, the in and out, with his hands relatively around his chin. So he blocks a lot of stuff, not quite in Usyk's sort of ilk, but he blocks a lot, not just makes you slip. He blocks a lot and counters off it. And yeah, I can't make a case for Lopez. I want to, and I think he can make it entertaining, and it'd be a really good fight, a fight you don't want to miss. But I can't make a case for him.
Following on from that, the final question, and something that I discussed with him in there, is: can he only win this fight by knockout, in your opinion? If he is going to win, however unlikely that you or many people, myself included, feel that is, can he only do it by catching him with a shot and knocking him out? Or can he win by decision? He thinks he can win either way, decision or knockout. Do you think that?
I don't. I theoretically, of course. I think...
difficult to see him winning 7 rounds against Lomachenko.
Again, if he does all the things that I said really early in the fight, and all of a sudden Lomachenko's the one who's a thought behind you, like that will never happen. But then you can outbox him, because Lomachenko's tough. So you might know, but I think it has to be the power that, even if you win on points, it has to be the power that's put him in his place. I think the power is it will be the difference for Lopez. That jumping in left hook's intriguing, to be honest. But the left hook won't work against the southpaw unless you've landed with that right hand. And when you're in that shoulder roll move, that right hand is really a single shot. You sort of twist a little bit, so you sort of almost like block with your left shoulder, and then come back with that right hand. It's a single shot Mayweather. You know, you just imagine Mayweather. If you think that he's the fight in your eye, he's the fight that comes up. You block and come back with that right hand. It's very rarely a combination shot. So you have to be a little bit more not square on, but a little bit more side on, more squared on than side on. Because then your body can turn more back and forth, and you keep your balance by transferring your weight from your left to your right. There, you're too side on to do that. And you've got to take a step with your right foot. There's too many movements, and it's only milliseconds, but that's enough time for someone, especially a Lomachenko, to adjust. So that left hook, he has to be from outside, jumping in, when Lomachenko thinks he's dominant. I think if Lomachenko throws loads of shots and he has a bit of success, then he skips out. If Lopez is not hurt, and they've been studying him, if they can block a lot of those shots, but keep an eye, so rather than be sort of blindly blocking, looking down, you're almost looking through your guard and see. Then you can spring in, especially if he goes that way. If he goes to your left and his right, then you can slip and jump in with the left hook when he thinks he's in a safe distance, and that might be the way for him. They might be thinking, listen, we throw, then we cover and we block and let him do his work, let him think he's spinning around us, then we jump. When he goes on that, when he exits out, we jump on him straight away. And I don't mean follow him out, because he knows that Lomachenko, he can move around you. You leap into it. But again, I think sometimes with Lomachenko, being a taller fighter than him is to your disadvantage, because he can stay low and he can slip under. That's why I always go back to Gervonta Davis. I think he gives him a hard fight because he's a short, stocky guy who doesn't have the physical advantages over Lomachenko. But so he will stay low. I think that will help him as it goes. So yeah, let's see Gervonta Davis versus Lomachenko. No, that's the fight I'm looking forward to. I've moved on from Lopez before the fights even happened. Yeah, and I'm not just dismissing Lopez, because he's a fantastic fighter. He's a bona fide world champion. I think he is genuinely world class, not just a belt holder. And he'll come again. But unless it's age and size, they're the only things that I think can beat Lomachenko right now.
So that was the great Barry Jones's insight into how to defeat Vasyl Lomachenko. I caught up with somebody else who was plotting the demise of Lomachenko last August. Shane McGuigan, trainer and coach of Luke Campbell, gave us his insight into facing Lomachenko. So Shane, tell us a little bit about making adjustments mid-fight with Vasyl Lomachenko. What's it like in the corner, having to work off what he's giving you, and how you have to implement those changes for somebody like Luke Campbell?
Really, really tough. I mean, normally, even at the top level, you can start picking things up, and people have habits that they do. And something about Lomachenko is he never did the same thing twice. You know, I mean, a prime example was even people as good as Manny Pacquiao. His habit was he used to bounce and he'd sort of touch his gloves, drop back, and he'd double jab back out. And you saw it in the Marquez fight. As soon as he did that, he sort of stepped back, drew the shot, whack, right hand, dropped him. But you know, that's the same thing. It's just the habits that people ingrain in the gym, and you see them in the fight. But he didn't have any. So for us, it was okay. Was try moving him this way. Okay, actually, he's not. He doesn't prize himself open. Let's move him the other way. Let's step wide off the line. So Luke stepped wide off the line in that round, then boom, bowled him. You know, because when he was stepping wide, Lomachenko thought, "Great, this is my moment." Double attacked him. As soon as he double attacked him, Luke chucked the bowler in, nailed him, and hurt him. But then for the next round, it was okay. Like try and do the same thing. Try and step wide. Didn't give it away. Just didn't commit. But he's still able to be just keeping that distance in and out. And keeping his concentration, and he's still picking up, and he still looks in control, you know. And like one of the things that he's very effective at is his presence. He makes it look like he's in control of the fight, even though he's not doing much. So he forces you to overcommit, overreach, or you know, fight when you don't need to fight. You know, these are all things that God-given talent. You know, but Luke picked up a lot of information on him, and Luke wants to box him again. He genuinely does. He wants to test himself, because that's his mentality. He's the kind of guy that wants to sort of always try and strive to be as good as he can. But from working in the corner, it wasn't like he did anything bad. It was just everything he did was so sound, so technically sound. And you know, we were trying to a lot of the time he sort of blocks in short. So we were thinking, okay, let's loop it around the side. Caught him with that shot, and then he never did it again. He just stepped back rather than putting him under pressure. So it was nigh on impossible to sort of pick a game plan out. But one thing that Luke doesn't do is he doesn't fight in close. And I think if Luke, it's just he's just not designed to fight in close. He doesn't feel comfortable in there. But I think somebody that's able to box in short range with him and that has a size advantage will be the guy that's gonna sort of. The only thing that's going to beat Lomachenko is size. Now, anybody at his own weight is. You got guys that are really fast, like Gary Russell Jr. He got outworked. You got someone who's really good timing, like Rigondo or Linares. They both, because of the phases in and out all the time, they couldn't get their shots off. Luke's a little bit like that as well. He's really good timing, not necessarily as quick as people. So I really believe someone that's going to dethrone Lomachenko. It'll either be age or it will be going one step ahead. And I think he's very cautious about even moving up to 140 because it's a tiny bit of size advantage that he lacks, And it won't be a guy that's on the back foot that's sort of slick. It's going to be someone that can fight in middle to short range with a size advantage that's going to beat him.
And do you think that's Teofimo Lopez? Is he the man to do that?
It's not Teofimo Lopez. I personally don't think Lopez will get past 8 rounds because I think, he's a decent puncher. He's very slick, very flashy, but he's not compact enough. It's not like when he throws his combination, when he throws his shots, they're singles. They're sort of set up singles, maybe 2 shots max. It's the guys that throw 3-4 punches on the inside or go again. That's going to be able to get to him. And I just personally think he's not going to be able to get off of those flashy set up shots like launching left hooks or, like he's just come off a win against Richard Comey that's prime for looking good. But that's not Lomachenko. Nobody looks special against Lomachenko. No one looks like that they can get those eye-catching, knockout real shots off. Richard Comey is a good all-rounder, but he's there to be hit. I think somebody like Lomachenko is all wrong for Lopez.
Final one. Now, one of the things that I spoke to Luke Campbell about was the body punching of Vasyl Lomachenko. He mentioned that he'd never been hurt by a body punch in his entire career, but he felt the shots from Lomachenko. How much of a factor and how important do you think Lomachenko's body attack is going to be against Teofimo Lopez?
I think Lomachenko generates his power with body shots. Certain people just, are better suited to the trajectory to sort of rip those shots up when they get low and they can generate their power when they're down. I think because he's boxing guys that are so... You saw someone like... Punching power is all about planes for me. It's all about, if you're taller than someone, the trajectory of the punch has to go up. You've seen that in Deontay Wilder when he's fought Tyson Fury. Slightly big, he's punching up. All of his power generates from getting over the top of the shot. So he loves to be the bigger guy. And I think someone like Lomachenko, he generates power to the head once he's eye line with somebody and someone's underneath him. Someone like Collar, he sort of boom, boom, bang. You can see him really sinking those shots in. But against Luke or against someone that's taller like Pedraza, he was punching up. He couldn't generate his power, but when he dropped down to the body, he could really rip them in. And I think Luke said he's definitely a much more solid body puncher than he was to the head. But also what he does is he's so good at timing, he throws with you. It's the same time shot. When you overextend with a shot, you're loose and you're relaxed. That's when you get nailed. And Luke sort of kept being in a position, getting backed up, pouring that jab out. As soon as he poured the jab out, boom, that straight left hand to the body was boom, and then he's in close, like I was doing with Alfie on the pad. It's one shot, then he comes in and the line is going forward. He's not sort of rolling his way in. He's just, as soon as the jab comes out, he shoots underneath it. He's using your momentum again with his, and that's what makes him effective. But he's a phenomenal talent. I'm excited to see the Lopez fight because I think it's just the fact that Lopez has had everything so much his own way. Sometimes confidence is hard to beat. You know, when someone's so like up there, he's been fed these lower level fighters. He hasn't had any real tests that's really tested him into deep waters. I'm sure he's had it in sparring. And you know, I've seen he sparred the likes of Javante Davies. He sparred Luke. He's had hard spars, but on fight night he hasn't had any real tests. So he's got bundles and bundles of confidence, and I think that is a positive for him. And I hope he goes in there and I'm a Lomachenko fan, but I hope he goes in there and he tries to is able to implement something because you need to see we need to see as fans exciting fights. But I just feel like he's going to deravel. He's going to unravel underneath the pressure, and it's just I think one of the things that's going to get to Lopez is the tempo of the fight. The fact that he loves a slow pace, he likes to be in control. He hits guys early, he gets respect, and then he can control the pace. I don't think he's going to be able to control the pace against Lomachenko because he's got a very good chin. He's defensively very sound, and he's got most boxers have 3, 4, 5 gears. He's got 20. He just keeps thinking up and he's a tough guy to prepare for.
So that was Shane McGuigan's insight into facing Lomachenko. Very, very detailed technical breakdown. Feels like a long time ago, that Luke Campbell fight last August. And obviously a lot's happened, not just in boxing, but in the world since then. Gave a good account of himself, albeit coming up short against Lomachenko.
He did, and I know he was a little bit peeved by the scorecards, but he was competitive in every round, but just didn't do enough. And which is that's to his credit. He tried the best he could do. I just think he came against a great fighter. But again, I think you plan and do all. And Shane McGuigan's a fantastic coach and technically very good. And you plan to do all the right things. But I just think the conventional right things to do just don't work. They just don't work. You follow him out when he takes the escape route. You follow him out and they'll double up with the right hand against the southpaw. But he comes out a different angle every time. He changes it up every time. Like we've already discussed this, you can't read his rhythm because he has beautiful smoothness to his movements, but his rhythm is just different every time he moves.
And it's not just that. I mean, speaking to Shane, and one of the things that I was very keen to speak to him about was obviously the adjustments that you have to make in the corner during the fight. I mean, Lomachenko, we've all seen him for the first couple of rounds, kind of likes to download that data, that matrix style that he has in the first couple of rounds. And then it's like, okay, he makes the adjustment, then you have to make the adjustment, but then he's got an adjustment to that, and then he just kind of ups the levels and ups the gears and keeps going through. Must be an absolute nightmare to prepare somebody during the fight for those changes.
Well, because how fit you have to be, because like that constantly thinking. It's like when a real big puncher puts you under pressure. Again, it's all to do with the feet. You panic, and so you always think, oh, somebody's coming. I got to watch this, watch that, and I do this and do that. And I couldn't punch, and I was a counter puncher, so I was always under pressure, even if the guy couldn't punch. So your fitness, in many ways, has to, because even though you're not coming forward, has to be better than anyone else's, because you're constantly thinking, because you're reacting, and they do that with their feet. And he does it with his feet. So you're always reacting to him. Even when you're leading off, you're really reacting to a movement he's made. So sometimes you think you're doing, I got a punch off here. He's made you throw that punch. Somehow. I don't know how he does it. But if I knew, I'd be training Lopez. But and he does. So I think that constantly using your brain for 3 minutes of a round is exhausting. And then like you said, he takes those early rounds to digest, make you work all the time. When you don't want to, and the feet do that. Then come the midway stage, even though you're super fit and you're working and you're trying to keep going, you just a little bit of edge has gone off your work, and then he goes to work. It's clever. It's really clever, and I don't know whether that's a thing they plan or whether it's a natural thing he has. Some of these things got to be natural. Those are things he must work on, of course, and those are things that they must be tactical. But a lot of what he does has to be just natural. I can't see how. Otherwise they'd be 15 Lomachenkos, wouldn't there? Surely his father would have a conveyor belt of him. There must be just some natural thing that he has that he can just constantly keep adjusting naturally. And it'd be interesting when he retires if he ever comes out with what I did and how I did it, or whether like a Joe Calzaghe, he just did it and didn't know why he did it. Just this is what I did because I could do it, and my body just did what I wanted to do or my body did it for me, and I just went along for the ride pretty much. And that's what some of these fighters do. That's why great fighters very rarely make good trainers, because they can get across what they could do, and then find it frustrating why no one else could do what they could do.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make. 'Cause, I mean, obviously people will draw similarities and comparisons to Lomachenko and Usyk. Obviously Usyk being a much bigger version, but there are a lot of similarities with what they do. But it is just slightly missing that something that Lomachenko has. And is that genetics? Is that, we've heard the stories about the ballet classes and the dancing lessons and stuff when he was younger. Potentially that has something to do with it. But there is something that you get with Lomachenko that you don't quite get in an Usyk or a Vosdik, or these Ukrainian fighters have all kind of come through the same amateur system, worked with Anatoly Lomachenko, Usyk especially, but they still don't quite have that something that Lomachenko has.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, because the size plays a part in that, and Usyk has brilliant footwork, but he blocks everything. He sort of he's happy to stand in front. That's why there's the question mark over being a heavyweight, because he takes a lot of shots on the gloves and the arms, and can he do that against those powerhouses? But he does have great footwork, and those little adjustments he makes will put you under pressure and will make it hard for you to hit him clean, but not the Lomachenko stuff. Just doesn't have that. And again, so you wonder whether it is natural, whether it is totally engineered from a child up. Is he the $6 billion man? Who knows? Who knows? He's something special. Listen, if you could bottle it up, then you make a fortune, that's for sure.
Now, Shane, kind of going in keeping with what we've discussed here, he seems to think that, while the first few rounds maybe nip and tuck, he does feel that as Lomachenko starts to up the tempo, up the pace, and give Lopez that adversity that he's not had so far in his career, he sees Lopez sort of unraveling 8, 9, 10 rounds around thereabouts, and Lomachenko getting the stoppage. What do you make of that prediction? Yeah,
I wouldn't go against it. I think Lopez might show that he's tough enough to see it through. But you can see that, because the reason why I think Lopez might get stopped, and probably Shane agrees, is that he'll keep trying. So he might get caught what he's throwing, that's the thing. I don't think he'll go into his shell. Though we don't know yet, because we haven't seen him in that sort of pressure, but just got the feeling that he won't somehow. And I think he might just continue trying. The more, sometimes when you start to get tired, start to unravel, the more you try and win, the bigger the gaps are, the more mistakes you make, the wider your elbows fail, and the punches are not as clean and as correct as they should be. So you end up being an easier target to hit. And Lomachenko has so many gears. It's just ridiculous. It's just when you think you should be knackered, or he just popped 4 punches out, then he spins round, does another 6, and come on, give me a break. It must be like that sometimes, just give me a break. I've never had that. I've had guys hit me so hard, just thinking, what are you doing that for? Like, they don't deserve this. Hit me, you don't hit me that hard. What are you doing that for? You're just on the floor going, what happened there? But not being peppered with millions of shots and just going, where is he? That's the panic. Where is he? Because he's somewhere else. He's not in front of you. So you fight, you'll throw back. And
the more and more frustrated you get, the more and more panicked you get. Where is he? What's he doing? Then the easier it becomes for Lomachenko.
And you tense, and when you tense, everything constricts, and then you have to push the punches out, so they're slower and you're easier to read, and so on and so forth. And you're tired, and it wears you down. I can see that. That's why it's important for Lopez to commit. I think, like I said, I think in the early rounds, as Shane was saying, that he has to be nip and tuck. But I think that's his chance to really just put it on Lomachenko and try and get him unsettled. I can't see it, but I think that's, for me, that's the only way. It almost sounds like give me a lightweight Dennis Andres who's just so unorthodox and swings from silly angles and real teak tough. That might give a Lomachenko, ironically, that might give a Lomachenko trouble. I just can't see it. It'd be funny if I'm wrong and he gets like totally outboxed and knocked out in 11 rounds, but which you never know. But again, all I can say is unless it's age and size, I just can't see it.
Well, we've spoken about him enough in this podcast episode. Let's hear from the great man himself, Vasyl Lomachenko, We caught up with him recently for his views on his fight with Teofimo Lopez this weekend.
Yesterday, Teofimo Lopez said that he's underestimated as a boxer, that he's not just a puncher. I was just wondering if you could tell us what you think of his boxing ability and his boxing IQ.
He has a good punch. He has a very good speed. He has IQ. He's young. He's hungry. But we'll see. We always can compare our level in the ring, our boxing skill, only then we fight with top fighters. I have a goal. I have a dream, and he hold a belt, IBF title, and I need this belt. And Saturday, October 17, I will try take this belt.
When Teofimo Lopez so confidently says that he feels like he'll win, but not just a regular win, but he's able to knock you out. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are when you hear that, and how do you visualize yourself winning that night?
I heard this a lot of time from a lot of boxers, but it's not mean. Then you come in the ring, you forgot about your words, and you forgot about what you promised. You just try boxing, and you just try fighting. So for me, it's just trash talk. For me, it's just the words. We'll see what happens in the ring.
Do you think age will play a factor in this fight?
I don't think about age, because I just 32 years old. Кто определил?
Who made the rules?
Who made the rules about age in the boxing? It depends. Как сказать? Это зависит это лично от каждого зависит. Кто-то стареет в 32, кто-то стареет в 37, кто-то в 45.
It depends on the personal lifestyle.
It depends on the personal lifestyle. Somebody stay older and at 27 and at 30. Somebody in 45, 47. I feel great and I feel young.
Somebody says Bob Arum is old, and somebody says Bob Arum is a still young man. He's a bright man. So that answers your question.
Age is just a number.
So that was Lomachenko. Unsurprisingly nonplussed by the trash talk from Teofimo Lopez. Let's start there. Obviously, we've spoken about it. It looks as though he's seemingly, obviously, acknowledging it and the fact that Lopez is saying these things, but he is very much, okay, we'll see on fight night. And that's kind of what we expect from Lomachenko at this point.
But it's not much he hasn't seen before. No, obviously, and when you're that successful, you must have a God complex and just think that whatever happens, I'll adjust and it's easy and we'll just wait and see. And I think, but the difference is with Lomachenko, then there may be some other great fighters down the line, is that I don't think it affects his training. I think he just trains the same way all the time, whether it's a 6-rounder, which he's never done, or or a world title fight. I don't think whoever he's up against, he'll just do the same. So he won't do less. Just I'll prepare right. As long as I prepare right, as long as I'm fit and strong, no one can beat me. And I think obviously except for Salido apart, I think that's sort of been the case most of his career. Salido and two other amateur boxers, that's been the same. The one was reversed, of course, but yeah.
He's made a point of kind of showing himself as to be this kind of this Matrix type character. He is very much he is a one-off sort of in the ring, but he's also a very unique type of character. We've spoken about what it's going to be like for Teofimo Lopez and kind of him facing somebody like a Lomachenko, but if the roles are reversed, or if the roles are able to be reversed, what's it going to be like for somebody like Lomachenko, who does have that God complex, to be in there with a brash, hungry, powerful, unbeaten momentum behind him, Teofimo Lopez? What's that going to be like for Lomachenko, do you think? You relish it, probably.
In the words of Lomachenko, nah. I think it is like that. I don't think he'll be fazed by whatever Lopez brings. If Lopez can whack him and hurt him, we'll see what happens then. But I mean, I don't think anything about the confidence or the swagger of him. He won't worry about that. I generally don't think he will. And also, like, lack of crowds or a reduced crowd, whatever it's going to be. And then I think it's no crowds. Pretty sure, is it? No crowds.
No, there are a small amount of fans there.
Even that,
even like I think it's 250.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like an Olympic semi-final then. You know what I mean? Like, for him, maybe a final for some places. Who knows? But he's used to that more than I know. Lopez has boxed at the high levels as an amateur also, but it's a different to what Lomachenko's used to. I know he's been a pro for a while now, and he's used to having some sort of crowds. But even then, he probably don't get a massive amount of crowds, and they're not all cheering for him maybe. And so I think that might help him. The fact that it is more like a back to the amateur days where nobody's around watching you except for some of your teammates. So it all points to a lot. I keep saying the same thing. I'm getting bored of myself. But I can't bet against him. I just can't. There's one day he'll get beat, and one day he'll get beat. And the longer you stay around, the more shorten the odds you getting beat and getting beat out of sight. Is it this week? I don't think it's going to be this fight, to be honest. But the good thing, I think the important part is Lopez will come again, unless he wins, and then he obviously is the superstar. But he'll come again. Lomachenko, how long does he keep going on for? He's just chasing the money now. Where's the biggest fight for him now after this? Is Devin Haney a big fight for him financially? It's a good fight that we all like to see, but I don't see it. He has to move up, don't he? But who's there?
Maybe the Taylor Ramirez winner, £140. But again, you're looking at like size wise, Josh Taylor's a big £140.
Oh, massive. Well, they're probably going to go to welterweight themselves, aren't they? So yeah, it's where do you go? What you keep going on for? How much money do you need? Says the man with no money. But there we go.
But it's an interesting point that you make, and kind of final one really on Lomachenko-Lopez is, we spoke about it earlier on about why are you doing this? You have to have that desire, and that is something that does still read from Vasyl Lomachenko in these interviews. His goal and his desire is to be undisputed champion, and it's kind of again shows you what a special talent he is, that he could become undisputed champion regardless of the WBC situation, which we always have to kind of caveat everything with. In his third most effective weight class. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, he'd still do 126 now if he had to.
Yeah, I think he could.
He's going to become undisputed champion, or potentially undisputed champion, 2 weights above his natural fighting weight. It's just unheard of.
It's crazy. This fight's out. Leo Santa Cruz, Gervonta Davis, if it's lightweight or whatever they are. There's good fights there, but what makes you better fight than beating this guy? Well, I don't see what it is. But also, coming from an ex-fighter, when you've boxed all your life, that's what you are. That's all you know. And I wasn't a superstar who made millions, but it affects you all the same way. Whether you're boxing 6-rounders, whether you've been a world champion and no one knows who you are like me, or whether you've been a Joe Calzaghe or whatever, and everyone knows who you are, or a Bruno, it's still that there's a massive void when you finish. And I don't know whether these fighters now are more aware of that. So there's not a panic. There's a wariness of retiring, because once you're done, you're done. And then you're not. It's your identity. You feel it's your identity, and it's not really. But that's all you're known as. I was Barry the boxer. That's all I know. And he's Lomachenko the great. And Joe Calzaghe was the greatest, one of the greatest British fighters who ever lived, and all of a sudden you're retired, and then after a while, no one bothers with you. Literally, no one bothers with you. But with somebody like Joe, the media attention goes, people are not interested in you. And Lomachenko, if he stays in America, will disappear. It's not the same as it is over here. With ex-fighters and being interviewed and stuff, he's gone unless he goes to shows all the time, and even then. The attention will wane, and that greatness that glow you have, everyone wants to see you. No one wants to see you anymore, because there's another big thing. Someone else just won an Olympic gold medal. Someone else just unified the title. So I'm thinking, I don't want it to end. That's the worry. Sometimes you just don't want it to end. And that might not be the fact of him staying on forever, but I think that's now boxers are more aware of that, and I think they might the worry for it's my identity. It's all I know. What do I do now? Do I still train every day? Because what do you train for? And that's the worry about staying on too long as well for these fighters. How long do you say when's enough's enough? And how great is great? We think Lomachenko's great. It might not be enough for him. He might be waiting around for this. If I wait 2 more years, some other superstar, the new Nazim Hamid might come along, and I can fight him, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or the new Floyd Mayweather might come along, and I can fight him, and so they're just waiting around for that. And if someone offers you 3 million, 2 million, 10 million, 1 million, we all say how enough is enough. But 1 more million's better than 1 less million, isn't it?
Particularly to do something that you've been doing since you could stand up.
And something that's you find quite easy. Let's be honest. You do. Yeah, they do. It's not like someone like me who struggled. Every fight's a hard fight for you because you're just doing enough to get over the line. They're just blazingly walking through people left, right, and centre. So yeah, where does it end? I don't know. And that's why boxers it usually ends up with you getting hurt and beat and then having to retire. So I've bigged Lomachenko up, and I've just finished his career. Oh, then what? 40 minutes, half an hour. Thank you.
I think it's been slightly longer than that. But before we wrap things up, I will ask you for your official Lomachenko-Lopez prediction. How's the fight going to end on Saturday?
It's a Lomachenko win without a doubt, and I would sort of maybe agree with Shane McGuigan and say anything from 8 to 10 stoppage for Lomachenko.
Okay. All right. Well, Barry Jones, thank you very much for popping by and doing this Lomachenko-Lopez preview. After all of this build-up, I hope it's a great fight. I'm sure it will be. Available for £9.99 on Fight TV. Keep doing the tremendous work you're doing, Fight TV, for British boxing fans so we can keep up to date with all of these great international fights. But from me, Rob Tebbutt, from him, Barry Jones, thanks very much for stopping by and checking out our Loma Lopez preview podcast. Enjoy the fight on Saturday night, and we'll see you soon.